Alright, here's the equation of circles, day 2 notes. Most of the stuff here is going to be dealing with doing something known as completing the square. But before we get to that, we have to kind of review some of the stuff that's done before. So in examples 1 through 3, it's asking to be squaring the binomial. It's giving us the hint that we need to FOIL. So we're going to do that on each one. There's our FOIL hint. Alright, so the first one we have x plus 2, that quantity squared. So probably the best thing to do each time is to go ahead and write it down twice. And then as we FOIL, we go first, x times x is x squared, outer, x and 2 is 2x, inner, 2x, last. Last step is to combine our like terms, which is going to be our middle two. So x squared plus 4x plus 4. And that's the first one. Number 2, same thing to start with. Go ahead and write it down twice. First, outer, inner. And what you should notice is that the inner and the outer are always going to be the same. And last, here we've got -4 and -4, so that's why I have plus 16. And we combine together our two inners. And last, here we have x plus 5, x plus 5. So once again, first, the outer and the inner the same. And the last. Those are the first three. So the pattern that we notice is that we square the last term. So whatever the last number is, so -4, 5, 2, that gets squared and that becomes our last term. And then we double to get the middle. And it's going to have whatever the sign was there. So that's minus, plus, plus. There's the minus, plus, plus. All right, so 4 through 6, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to factor it. And so we're going to try to do this in a shortcut way, just because we have this pattern that we've identified. So if we take the square root of each of our last numbers, so first the 9, so that's 3. Take the square root of 1, we get 1. We take the square root of 36, we get 6. So now to check to see if it is a perfect square, we just need to double this number and see if we get the middle term. So if I double 3, multiply it by 2, I get 6. So that checks out. If I double 1, I get 2. So that checks out. If I double 6, I get 12. So that checks out. So now we have the number that we need. Okay, it's always then the square root. So 3, 1, and 6. Okay, so we have x, 3. That's going to be squared. And our sign comes from the middle term. So we've got plus 6, so plus. This one we're going to have x and 1, and we have minus 2, so it's minus. Here, squared it. And here we have x and 6, and positive 12, so plus. And that's how you can do those. Okay, next thing here is coming up with the last term. So there's this two-step process where you take the middle term and divide it by 2 and then square that result to get our end term. This is kind of what is completing the square. So first one here, we've got our middle term is 8. So we divide it by 2, we get 4. When we square it, we get 16. Divide this by 2, we get -7. And here, if we square -7, I'll put in the parentheses just to help, it's still going to be positive. They're always going to be positive when you square. And then 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 10 squared is 100. Okay, and so then there's the steps to convert to standard form for a circle. So all this is, again, coming back to a circle. So what we need to do is, again, completing the square. And so we need to make sure that we keep our variables separate and then figure out what number we need to add to both. And then we can automatically go to our completing the square and our equation for a circle. So in example 10, you'll notice that we have those as our x terms, so they end up right there. And then we have our y terms. And those ended up right there. And we actually took the constant, so the number that's by itself, and it gets always moved to the other side, so you'll notice it's right there. So now we're going to, again, do that same process that we did up in the 7 through 8. We are going to take the middle number and divide by 2, and then square it. So we're going to divide negative 2 by 2. We get negative 1. We square it, and we get 1. And whatever we put in this box, we have to put 1 over here. Keep the equations balanced. Divide 4 by 2, we get 2. We square it, we get 4. So these two boxes need to match these two boxes on the other side. Okay, and then once again, we're going to take the whole divided by 2 part. Okay, and it's going to go in here. So we're going to have minus 1. Okay, we divided this by 2. Negative 1. We divide this by 2. And we get negative 2. And then here we have 4, 1, and 20. All added together gives us 25. So we're coming up with the center. Again, the center is going to be the number it's supposed to be subtraction. So we'll use this as 1, 2. And then again, remember the radius is the square root of that last number. So the square root of 25 is 5. We're going to do this now in example 11. First thing we're going to do is we're going to break the x and put them together. So we're going to have x squared plus 12x plus, and we leave a blank to fill in. So those are done. And we have plus y squared minus 8y plus, leave another blank, equals, we're going to take the 16, it's positive, so on the other side it'll be negative, subtract it, and we'll do plus blank, or whatever goes in there. We're going to keep track of the numbers here, so we're going to do 12 divided by 2, that's 6. That's going to go in here. It's positive because the 12 is positive. And we do need to do 6 squared to get 36. 36. And then over here we have negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And negative 4 squared is 16. 16. So this is going to equal, positive and negative 16 cancel out, so we're left with 36. Okay, if we wanted to know the center, again, it's going to come from these two numbers, but remember it's supposed to be positive or negative, so if it's positive 6, it should be negative 6 for the center x. This is minus 4, so it'll be 4. And our radius is the square root of 36. So it is 6. and all that can be filled in down here too. 36 plus 6, 16, 6. Yep. Alright, and so now we have a couple problems left. We're going to be doing the same thing on these. We need to figure out standard form, center, radius, and then graph it. Okay, we're just not going to have it all set up for us right away. So here we go. First step again, separate the x and the y. So I've got my two x's here. X squared plus 2x plus blank. Done with those. Plus y squared minus 6y plus blank. Done with those. Equals, goes to the other side, so minus 6 plus blank plus blank. Okay, so for the x's, again, take the middle term 2, divide by 2, that gives us 1. So I will have x plus 1 squared. I square it to get this number. 1 squared is 1. Y's, that, negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. And let's move some of this. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So that will give us y minus 3 squared. And squaring negative 3 gives us 9. So 9 goes there. We have 1 and 9 for those two spots as well. So negative 6 plus 1 plus 9 is 4. We get to our equation. X plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. Our center is going to be negative 1, 3. Again, it's plus, so it's the opposite sign. It was minus, it goes plus. And the radius is the square root of our n number, which is 4, so the square root of 4 is 2. Now if we go to graph it, we need to go to the point negative 1, 3. And then, since we have a radius of 2, we're going to count 2 in each direction. 2, 2, 2, 2. And do our best to draw a circle. One more problem. Okay, so x squared plus y squared minus 4x plus 4y minus 17. Again, break the x and the y's. So here's my two x's, x squared minus 4x plus blank, done, plus y squared plus 4y plus blank, negative 17, so we have to add it to move it, so it equals 17 plus blank plus blank. First for our x's, take the middle number there, so negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. We have x minus 2 squared, and negative 2 squared is 4. 4 there, 4 there. And then for the y's, we're going to have 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Y plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. 4. And we have 17 plus 4, which is 25. Write our equation. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 25. center is going to be at 2, -2, and the square root of 25 is 5 for our radius. We'll go to 2, -2 here, count 5 in each direction, 2, 3, 4, 5. And draw our circle. And that concludes the day 2 notes for writing equations of circles.